My friends, today we get ready for transfer deadline day, and you can imagine a crap ton of business, deals, stories and news is set to go down. I got a ton of things to report over the last 24 hours, big updates this morning as well, so I hope you guys enjoy. Hit that like button, share your thoughts and opinions, all that good stuff, and let's get straight into things. Let's now discuss all the latest exits and updates surrounding the club right now, as Ben Chilwell has finally secured a last-minute loan move to Crystal Palace, straight 6-month loan until the end of the season. They're covering quite a bit of his wages as well. We get a nice tidy loan fee on top of that, and I have to say I'm happy for Ben that he's able to find a club before the window closes. I was getting quite worried that he might be remaining here, and I was even thinking to myself, if Ben did remain here, could this low-key have been a good idea for us? Because now that Vega's gone, we don't necessarily have options at left-back. I'm guessing now we'll see Malo Gusto return to that side. Maybe Reece James will play there at times. I'm sure Maresca will have to get quite creative with things. So let's see what happens there. But for Ben, this is a great opportunity. You're going to Crystal Palace. You remain in London. Palace have had a lot of players who have represented the national team. And now that Thomas Tuchel, a manager that you shined under during your time here as the England manager, you step up, you perform, and you could find yourself back in international recognition. So let's see what happens there. From our side, you can imagine our directors, they're praying he has an injury-free second half of the season where he performs well, because if he does, you'd imagine that a lot of clubs will show interest in signing Ben for next summer. So you know what? I feel like he could play at a higher level. I don't think he's become a crap player overnight. He's just been kicked out the team due to whatever reasons. But, I hope he does well, because, even though things have been hard against him, he's not been complaining. He's not been leaking things to the media. He's accepted his fate, and he's still been a good, experienced figure for the young team. Because let's remember, he was appointed the vice captain for a reason and did a lot of work with Mudryk and others supporting them behind the scenes. So, good luck to Ben, and let's move on. And we turn our attention to Chelsea and Aston Villa, because it seems like Disasi's move to Aston Villa now is set to crumble. And that's because Aston Villa feel like the money we want is just too much. We want an important loan fee, which seems to be way too high. And of course, we want his full wages covered, which is, I think, a pretty standard and fair thing to ask for. Now, I'd imagine the loan fee we wanted is around £5 million, because Tottenham, they had their loan offer accepted by us. However, Disasi rejected the opportunity to sign for Spurs, because why would any Chelsea-affiliated player want to go to Tottenham? Let's keep things absolutely real, and respect to these guys for having a bit of standards as well. So I'd imagine that Aston Villa didn't feel like the money was right to be investing that much into, a loan signing, but maybe they might not even sign him on a guarantee basis at the end. So there's a big possibility that maybe Disasi ends up remaining with our squad, which is crazy, because he was like one of the favourites to be leaving here before the window even started. So again, we got plenty of hours before the window closes tonight. Could there be more twists and turns? Could we drop our demands? Let's see what happens, because all of a sudden now we're looking incredibly stacked in defence. And this turns our attentions now to João Félix. It seems like his proposed move now to Aston Villa has failed for similar reasons. We wanted an important fee from Aston Villa to even consider selling Felix, and it seems like Villa now have turned their attentions into securing Marcus Rashford on loan for the season, and they also have options to buy included in that deal. So at the moment, Jorge Mendes has been working overtime to secure Felix at AC Milan. Their new manager and Constantino is a massive fan, and he plans to partner Felix alongside their big recruit this window in Santiago Jimenez. So all of a sudden, Milan are looking quite tasty. Kyle Walker, Jimenez, and potentially Felix, that seems to be on the cards. And reports this morning suggest that there's been great progress that has been made. Lots of confidence now that a loan deal is set to be struck, and Felix most likely will go to AC Milan before the window closes. If he does that, he takes up the last international loan spot, and essentially with Felix going, because one of these 8/10 guys has to go, now means that Nkunku is set to stay, and that's now been confirmed this morning that Nkunku is not going anywhere, because the asking price we wanted for Nkunku was just too much. And now that Mathis has rejected the opportunity to come to us, that deal has fallen through and we've kind of priced Nkunku out, which is a bit baffling because, if he continues to not get much minutes before the season ends, we can't be asking for 65 million again in the summer. You're asking for even less money, and most clubs may decide to play the long game and try and force through sneaky loan moves near the end of the summer window. So does Maresca find a new use for Nkunku outside of wasting his talents up front? This guy could also play as the 8. He's a great goal scorer. He's a great flipping player. Let's see what happens there. But it's kind of crazy that João Félix already, after signing for big money in the summer, let's not forget, we paid around 42 million fixed fee with an additional 4.3 million in add-ons. And we gave Félix a 7-year contract. To think that in 6 months' time, less than 6 months, he's already leaving out on loan with an option to buy at around like 45 million included. I mean, it's not really saying much about the squad planning. We have to keep things real. And I know that a lot of us have some frustrations with Maresca, but for myself, because I'm just so sick and tired of this constant conveyor belt of managers coming in, coming out with a repeated pattern I keep seeing, which is managers not having their full ideas fully supported across the squad, you kind of undermine and cap the capacity in which these guys can work with, right? And I just think, again, you let go of the more useful player that Maresca would have been using on a weekly basis in Conor Gallagher to go for a guy now that you've got no use for 6 months later. Yes, I know Felix and Mendes have been the ones really engineering things to get out of here and play. I can't blame him, to be honest with you. But honestly, it doesn't give you much confidence with the planning where sort of this opportunity stuff ends up biting us in the ass in the end. So it seems like Felix should be securing something today. Let's see what happens there. And for the other two big updates, Carney Chukwuemeka has now secured his loan with Borussia Dortmund. Dortmund have included an option to buy at over 40 million, which is funny because originally we said that we didn't want any options to buy included, straight loan only. We clearly changed our mind on that. Was that maybe part of the plan? Is that part of the negotiations? Who knows? But we know that Dortmund are paying a good loan fee and covering Carney's full wages, and he's earning around 100k a week. This kid's on big money. So allegedly, reports suggest that we still have hopes for Carney, and if he performs at Borussia Dortmund, you can imagine that a lot of clubs are going to be after this kid because he's one of the big talents of his generation. And it's kind of insane that this season he's been ostracized completely. And it kind of frustrates me because last season, if injuries didn't hurt him at the wrong times, he was set to blow up. He was set to have that type of season under Pochettino, who clearly saw something in the player. And you would think that even though a lot of these 8/10 guys have failed to really cement themselves under Maresca, you would have thought maybe Carney would have had more game time, considering he's more of a midfielder compared to the rest of these guys. But for some reason, Maresca's been forever saying, I got no space for him, I got no space for him. And that's the thing with development, right? One manager can absolutely rate you, believes in you, and the other just doesn't see it, has his own ideas, wants his own players, and your career is kind of affected just like that in the space of no time. I think Carney is too good to be treated that way, and it worries me about, as I've been constantly criticizing over the years. I feel like my position on youth, I try to be contextual, I try to be intelligent, I try to maybe look at the other angle to try and understand why decisions that I don't agree with constantly get made. I think a lot of you guys get it. I think some of you guys sometimes miss the point of what I'm saying. For me, I just feel like this whole battle royale mentality of, signing an abundance of youth talent just so a few of them can fight it out for the hopeful chances of securing some minutes, I think it's just so backwards. And again, without minutes, it means nothing buying potential. It means nothing buying youth. So good luck to Carney, going to a great loan. He held his guns. He said no to Strasbourg. I feel like I can play in a more competitive league for a better club because clubs like Dortmund had been showing interest this whole window. So you're not going to turn down Dortmund to go to Strasbourg. And Carney will hope that he can be that Bellingham-esque type of figure now in that Dortmund first team. So I'm going to be paying close attention to what Carney does on loan. Happy for the kids, and I hope he has an injury-free second half of this season and absolutely smashes things at Borussia Dortmund. And for the final piece of loan news, my friends, we discuss how Anselmino. It seemed like he was set to sign for Marseille on loan, potentially getting the final international loan spot. However, we're now learning Felix will get that naturally, which now means that his move to Marseille is now off, and his future is very uncertain. Unless a club in this country decides to take a punt on Anselmino, what's going to happen with him now? And as I said before, we're looking absolutely stacked in defense, and it just continues this really poor piece of planning that we keep seeing. Naturally, we had to cut his loan spell at Boca Juniors because they're in the off season right now. I get that, but surely there would have been like a ready place move for him instantly, or maybe opportunities to give him minutes and to play him, because the worst thing you can have in your young career is momentum of minutes stopping. You can't be playing as you were for Boca Juniors. I know he had a few injuries near the end. To come here, only train and not play whatsoever, it just stifles development. You need minutes. Is there an off chance that we see Anselmino introduced slowly now into the first team? I mean, clubs like Dortmund, Marseille, they are no jokes, these types of clubs. And if they're coming in for like a 19, 20-year-old, clearly this kid has big talent and big potential. And a lot of times we've been signing from clubs of this same size and standards. So could he surprise us second half of the season? Could we see him get some cup minutes in cup games? Those minutes are coming up, but you think to yourself, Achimpong, Chalobah, of course, Tosin, Chilwell, Badia's coming back, I think this month. Fofana's supposed to come back next month. Disasi's most likely remaining here at this rate. And obviously, we've also seen Maresca use the fullbacks in these wide defensive positions. So we're looking absolutely stacked right now. And it just continues this poor planning and poor foresight. And I don't know, I just feel like we've just done way too much in terms of signing too much youth talent. And we clearly can't even curate their developmental paths perfectly to assure that our investments are getting the best possible care, love and affection to make sure that our investments achieve their maximum potential. It has not been giving this impression for a while now. We've seen a lot of, exciting talents even sold a season or two straight away. Look at even Cassidy and others like this. It's, it's not looking great, to be honest. And I think eventually, our PR and rep in the market and across Europe will come downhill because people won't be taking us serious, man. So my friends, let's end things with the final piece of big news involving midfield recruitments, because I think one of the biggest piece of businesses we're hoping to get done before deadline day is securing a midfield player. I've been saying this for a long flipping time. I've been looking at Maresca's system, I've studied it and analyzed it, and I've been saying the key thing that ruins us and has made us drop a stupid amount of points is the fact that we cannot maintain our pressing intensity. Yes, we look at the Man City game. Outside of that, after every 60th minute, 70th minute mark, everything drops. Our intensity drops. Gaps open up in midfield. Why? We don't have the depth of options to maintain the intensity. We don't have the midfield. Maresca's clearly told us this season, I only care about using midfield players, yet he doesn't have any to turn to us. Again, continuing this poor lack of foresight and squad planning, which is just typical of how we're running things at the moment, and I don't think it's good enough, to be fair with you. But anyway, we learned yesterday from Fabrizio Romano. We're looking at two midfielders, and of course, it's more youth recruitment. One is Nico O'Reilly from Man City, the 19-year-old, and the other is Saint Etienne's 19-year-old Lavia-esque, Partey-esque midfield player in Mathis, Amougou. Let's start with O'Reilly first. Now, the big update this morning is that Man City seems to have rebuffed our efforts for O'Reilly because they've asked for too much money. They've asked for a very important fee. Now, yesterday we learned that Man City have been hesitant about allowing him to come to us, especially after seeing what happened with Cole Palmer. And ideally, they would want a buyback clause or matching rights, which I think is fair because, again, when you're signing yet again, youth wonder kid midfield talent number 10, there's a chance one of these guys ain't going to make it naturally. So, City want to make some money from that, cool. But again, at the moment, the money they're asking for seems to be too much compared to what we're hoping to spend. Could something change as the day goes on? Let's see. And I say this because Man City are actively trying to sign former La Masia 8 in Nico Gonzalez from FC Porto. And he essentially replaces O'Reilly in the team. So how does it make sense to, but again, this is the big club way to hold all the talents, right? You want to sign someone where you could give minutes in the first team to a guy that kind of plays in a similar way already. I don't really get it, to be honest with you. But again, it continues this trend of Joe Chills using his institutional knowledge of Man City to tap into and access their best emerging talents, because I guess we can offer them more of a pathway compared to them getting that with Man City. I get that. In terms of this kid's profile, just to keep things objective before you guys, or some of you, a handful of you, mistake me trying to hype up youth because you're not able to distinguish the two, I'm going to make it very clear for you, yeah? Objectively, what is this type of player? Who is he? Blah, blah, blah. He's traditionally been more of like an 8-star midfield player. You can do the underlaps, the overlaps, box crash, carries it with a lot of power. I see a tiny bit of Mathis in terms of how languid his style is. And Mathis, when we signed him from Slovenia or Slovakia, he was originally an 8. That was how he started. And, this season, O'Reilly has been used as a 6, and he's been used as a left back recently too, as well. And I kind of feel like there's a lot of transferable qualities when you have this type of profile, physicality, range, which can maybe develop you and make you better. Because I've always felt, listen, if you're like a holding mid for a top club, you're more than a holding mid. You're like a holding mid by trade, but you have the heart of an 8, which means that you can play out under pressure. You can do a few more things than a traditional, play breaking style DM. O'Reilly has that. He has a lot of interesting attributes. Already 6'2". He'll probably grow another inch or two as he fills out. Will be a unit. Wins his duels, adds a sense of physicality and height. Almost reminds me of someone we already own. What's his name? Ugo Jukwu, who's at Southampton. We've decided not to recall him, even though he was looking good for Maresca this preseason. And we already paid a crap ton of money to sign this kid already. But no, we're a football club where we can afford to sign another guy to battle it out with the other young guy that we only signed just last summer. I mean, it's getting a bit boring now, to be honest. I mean, listen, I can go on about the development, the potential, the objectivity, but I'm at a point right now, listen, I'm not an expert in the game. I confidently say that I know my place and I'm fine with that. But for myself, I feel like we're in this habit of constantly signing these like blank canvas youth talents, yet we offer them developmental paths, drawn out by crayons. You know what I mean? It just defeats the point if there is no minutes to access consistently. These types of talents traditionally, when they used to go to the next level, they would have a regular amount of minutes and then be supplemented alongside some experienced guys who were already ready there to do what they got to do in the team. I look at like a Mikel, who made a similar transformation, being a more offensive attacking mids to playing a more holding 6 role, which he got really good at as he matured and as he got older. But would he have got there if he was playing alongside other 22-year-olds, another 21-year-olds, and other 23-year-olds? I don't think so, to be honest with you. So it's interesting that this is a type of talent we're looking to turn to, even though we have two similar talents who you could argue are better at the moment, or that we own, or maybe we should just be giving them minutes morally, right? But I don't know. And obviously for the second player, Mathis Amougou. Now, currently, he is the shining star for relegation battling Saint Etienne. And yet again, he looks a bit like a Partey, he looks a bit like a Lavia. And I'm just saying that just to save time on the comparisons and analysis, because a lot of times when I discuss these guys, man, or a lot of times when you guys are reading about the next wonder kid any club's looking to sign, I just feel like with all this like Twitter analysis and this like overblown analysis we see on every youth talent, it just kind of feels a bit like meaningless. You know what I mean? Case in point, look at what's his name, Euro at Manchester United. Now, the amount of analysis pieces and videos saying that this guy's the next great French defender, yeah, he probably might have that potential. But look how he's struggling and suffering at United this season. Yes, I understand the complications, new environment, new this, all of that. No preseason, cool. I get it. But again, it's a constant reminder that this is the reality of using youth talent. We're conditioned to believe that this next 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 17-year-old is the second coming of a Messi, because they come with massive transfer fees behind them. And I don't blame the average fan for believing that if you're committing this amount of money confidently, surely this guy is different. And he is like more ready than the other 10 kids that you've learned about and read about. But it just don't really work like that. You looked at Euro, you're looking at Kusanov. Yeah, he was the latest guy where all the Twitter scouts and everyone was just only gassing his qualities, but they never discussed the intangibles. Like, can he mentally handle the challenge, the pressure, the expectations, those types of things. This is what I'm talking about. You're making a massive step up to these big institutions that have all eyes on you, and a lot of them will crumble if they don't have that experience around them. Yes, this kid does look talented. I'm not here to say that he doesn't, but it's like a dime a dozen at this point. We already have so much of this type of profile, this type of player. Like, adding more right now, what does it do? As I keep stressing in this video, if there's no consistent access to minutes on a regular basis, what is the ultimate utility of going for yet again another youth talent? Are you telling me in this market, if you weren't going to recall a loan guy you already on, there wasn't an experienced short-term guy in the market you can turn to? I mean, I make this example all the time by Endo at Liverpool. This is the typical signing we just would not turn to yet. There's plus side in players like this, which I thought the data models should be highlighting, that you can tap into and turn to for short-term basis reasons that can actually help and benefit what already pre-exists to enhance what you already have. That's what I want to see. I think to myself, yes, Amougou, he's a talent on the ball, scans, receives under pressure, plays through lines. Yeah, they all do the same thing these days. Like, that's how good the level of coaching is. But I just feel like, what is the bottleneck that really separates all these guys right now? Oh, it's minutes. And if you ain't going to get them consistently, like, what is the point? Now, all I'll say to end this story is that when I heard about this kid 2 weeks ago, allegedly he was supposed to be a move for Strasbourg. If this is a Strasbourg move, I'm fine with this, because you're playing for relegation, battling Saint Etienne. Yeah, our ambitions to try and reach Champions League football, it's night and day. You can't compare them. And outside of just being additional numbers for the team, is he ready right now to help with that challenge? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't think any scout can confidently report that. You know what I mean? Yeah, we just look at what these guys do on the ball all the time. Yeah, of course they can play. If you're playing at this level already, you're a talent. But, to go to that next level, to be like the great player that you have to be when you're playing for clubs of our standard, that's just the reality of how it goes. This is where it's very hard to ascertain who has and who doesn't. But normally, it's the minutes you can regularly offer them, which allows some of these guys to separate from the pack they find themselves in. So let's see what happens there, my friends. But I'd imagine there's going to be more updates, more stories today, so stay tuned on Blue Lions TV. I'll catch you guys later today too for the game against West Ham, Porter's return. Don't forget to catch out the preview as well, and of course stay tuned, and I'll see you all soon. Cool.